Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Brian Barber, aka Bigfoot's Barber Shop. Yes, this is excellent once again to see you venture into the fox den for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy. We are going to definitely have a very interesting topic to be covering here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yet please allow me to feed. Absolutely delicious. Even though I could sit here and just drink and feast all day. Unfortunately, Bigfoot's Barbershop and myself have some very important things to attend to. Yes, without further ado, it is time for the Midnight Society to meet once again. My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. We have a member of the Midnight Society, yes, Bigfoot's Barbershop, aka Brian Barber, which, if you do tune in, you should know he's here pretty much every week. How you doing tonight, Brian?
Doing good. We are ready to go. Find out some Dogman stuff. What's good in your world?
This is very true and excellent, man. Just been pretty busy helping out a few of my friends with their dogs while they're traveling, and just a ton of editing and hanging out with my squirrel, getting ready for the hockey season, and hopefully the Bruins signing Swayman here soon, and just trying to get caught up on some stuff. What about you, bro?
Oh, just being up on my supplements. I got a promotion at work, so now I'm in charge of the supplements and some of the health programming for individuals that come in. So time to get back up to date on some stuff that I'm way overdue for studying up on, which means I got to stay in shape now because, who wants to talk to a fat personal trainer?
Excellent. Sounds like you're doing pretty good as well. And before we get diving into the Dogman on a funny note, it's like that saying, never trust like a skinny chef because he's not eating his own food or her own food.
Exactly. And but the beauty of it is too is when people look at me right now, they see somebody in okay shape. But I've got the pictures over the years for when I went through my troubles and ballooned up to 373 pounds of just bulk. So I'm able to prove that I can make that transformation, and I've had to deal with those health issues. And so it makes a little more relatable, I think, to the average person.
Makes a ton of sense right there. And I've luckily always ate and tried to keep pretty well care of myself, minus my sports injuries, because I played a lot of sports, but played semi-pro soccer as a goalie and definitely destroyed myself. Yet it is super important to make sure that you are, taking care of yourself. And I'm only like what? I think last time I went in to get checked up with my doctor, maybe last month, I was 6'1", like 168. I mean, I can range a little bit to like 172, give or take, but I've never really pushed anything over that weight or really under that weight. I mean, I like to stay active, but I don't hit the gym and stuff like that. I mean, I'll jog and do aesthetic stuff and really work on pliability and also mobility and such. But yeah, I don't really do anything else along the lines of weightlifting and such. So
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you need. You just want to be healthy. This, it's the only car you got for this ride in life. And
isn't that true? And that's funny you said that before we start rolling. I actually have to Maine. I got some interesting stuff. But when I did personal training, have some more, time back in the day when I was doing a little bit of that stuff. It's always what I used to tell people is your body's like a temple, make sure that when you put it inside, you're putting in good things, and also that you can change the shocks on a car 100 times, but you can't change your kneecaps.
exactly, the artificial ones do not work as good as the originals, so take care of them. They're good for I think 10 years, so you don't
I
want
know.
them very late in life.
Yes, 100%. I'll keep all my original body parts till they fall off, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I'm proud to say. I've only had one major gym injury since I started in 1984, and that happened 2 years ago, and it was because I was stupid. It was my own fault. It wasn't some freak accident. I rushed the warm up, went to a weight I shouldn't have, and tore my tricep, which is something I know better than to do. So, the gym is a place that you do with respect, but at the same time, it helps take care of that body. If you're not looking for, you don't have to be a mass monster. You just want to be healthy so you can do the things and get away from the occasional dog man if you're out in the woods. So,
Isn't that the truth, my friend? And I wanted to basically get your thoughts before we dive into some of these encounters in the 207. What do you really know about the Maine area? I mean, everybody knows about the Palmyra case. It's cool, obviously, but again, played out, in my opinion. There's a lot of other gems that people just haven't really been introduced to. And besides that infamous encounter, have you heard too much more from up here?
I'm not even familiar with that one, I don't think.
With the Martin family in Palmyra, Maine, where
Martin family, gotcha.
yes, where the dogmen, like five of them, come and harass them all night. That's pretty much the
Oh,
most infamous one up here in Maine, and arguably, I guess, in Dogman lore, it comes up quite a lot too. So
no, I haven't heard that. When you said Martin family, I was thinking about the boy who was kidnapped by what other people saw and thought was a Bigfoot. I haven't heard about this Martin family and being harassed all night.
oh, jeez, really? All right. Well, I can try to scroll through here and find that for you because I was in a different section. But before I find that, if you'd like to basically, I want to throw you the mic here. And if you want to give some of your thoughts as to potentially some of the new Dogman information that's been floating around, or just in general, if you've had any new thoughts on it, and I'm going to find this for you.
Well, I did find out there's supposed to be some long-term dogman activity that's been going on in Lake Ann, along with Bigfoot activity on the same property. So uh, I took my mom out last night, and we were doing the Bigfoot thing, hoping to hear something, and we were discussing it. And she's friends with the man who just happens to be a neighbor where all the activity happened in the 70s with my grandma. And she told him what I was doing and said he really wanted to talk to me because he totally believes in Bigfoot. He thinks he has Dogman on the property as well. So that's really got my interest peaked because now you've got a chance to actually talk to somebody who may have had firsthand experience with Bigfoot Dogman crossing over, in the same land. I'd be, are they fighting? Are they cooperating? Has one got a pet and the other one's the master? I got all kinds of questions I want to ask this guy. So when it sounds like he's willing to talk, I don't know if he'll do it on air or not, but we'll see what happens. But apparently he had heard of me through a couple of the other podcasts with the whole peanut butter fiasco. And when he found out I was Cindy Walters' kid, because our last names are different, then he contacted her and said he wanted to get a hold of me, and we'll find out what he's got going on. Because, like I said, I know that it's been active with Bigfoot since the late '60s. There was even an instance where a Bigfoot went through and tore up. We use the term they used from the '60s, hippies camp. Hippies were out there partying in a campsite and went into town. came back with their supplies, and there was a 9-foot Bigfoot and next to the road, and it shoved a tree over across in front of their car. The 2 cars turned around, went and got the police. The police came back with them, and the camp was destroyed. And there were 17 and 19-inch footprints all over the place. They got cast and everything. And it's actually a report that is in the Benzie County Sheriff's Department, as well as what was formerly known as the Benzie County Advisor, which was the local paper at the time. So it'd be really cool to find out if there's Dogman activity, knowing about how much Bigfoot activity is in that area.
Yeah, it's definitely some straight up bizarre stuff right there. And I ended up finding the time and location for us right there. And that reminds me of the case also with the Michigan Dogman, where, as you had mentioned, these hippies were in their RV and apparently woke up to some sort of canine looking creature looking inside at them. And they told a local game warden about it. And yeah, that just happened to pop into my head as you had been speaking about that.
That's my, I think, biggest fear is like being in my car, either getting ready to get out to go Bigfooting or getting ready to leave, is all of a sudden looking out my window and there's a big hairy face looking in the window. Because to me, I would feel trapped at that point. I'm in a little can, and now I would be less scared in the open woods for some reason. Don't ask me why. But now I feel like I'm in a tuna can looking out, and there's, Daryl and Harry and the Hendersons ready to pop the lid and enjoy some chubbies.
Yeah, that would definitely not be very appealing for sure. And this next encounter for you, I can't even believe you haven't heard of this one. I was going to tap on some of the less well known ones, but this one pretty much is infamous here. Spring 2007, Madagascar Road, Palmyra, Maine. The Martin family, consisting of Eric Martin, his wife Shelley Rockwell Martin, and their daughter, have just recently moved into an old farmhouse. As winter is ending and it's becoming nice outside, the daughter, her boyfriend, and the family dogs set out to explore their new property. About a mile away from the farmstead, the young couple found what looks to be a den belonging to some sort of large animal or animals. As the couple approaches the den, their dogs turn around and bolt, ears pinned back and tails between their legs, all the way back to the house. The couple claimed it reeked of rotting meat, wet dog, and fox urine. Peering inside the den, the couple begins to hear a loud growling. Like their dogs, they turn and make a dash for the farm. Later that night, Mr. Martin and his wife are outside enjoying the evening when 5 wolf-like creatures were caught crouching down and staring back at them from a field around 25 yards away. Eric and Shelley quickly stand up and run inside to wake up their sleeping daughter. As they're telling her what has just happened, they all are totally startled. The family's nightmare has just begun. Throughout the night, the Martin family's farmhouse was attacked by this pack of canine-like creatures that stood around 7 to 8 feet tall and ran on all fours and 2 legs with ease. They had long, human-like arms that were featuring massive teeth and claws. Throughout the night, the Martin family heard terrifying howls and chatter, and it sounded like these animals were talking to each other in snarls and canine-like sounds as they were trying to figure out a way into the house. The Martins claim the Dogmen tried the doors, the windows on the first floor, and other areas to see if it was locked, and then proceeded to jump up onto the second-story roof, which looped around the farmhouse, and began trying to look into the windows. The following morning, Eric and Shelley documented huge 5-digit scratches all over their doors and property, and mysterious canine-like footprints as well. Shortly after this, the Martins sold their property, moved out of their farmstead, and never returned to the area or spoke of this encounter again.
Wow, that's crazy. And then
Right?
not only that, but it shows, something you don't hear about in the Bigfoot world is the fact that the dogmen always seem to try the doors and the windows. It's almost like they know they're not going to fit, probably, but maybe it's like a mind game to them to really rattle the prey and get that adrenaline pumping even more.
Which would make sense because obviously they could rip off the door if they really want to, unless it was super heavy duty and this door was pretty heavy duty, so I don't know if they could have just ripped it off. But when it comes to other things like smashing windows and areas where there's crappier doors and such, yeah, I think they're just playing the FF game just to troll people before they do whatever it is they're going to do. I mean, it's no different than a cat playing with a mouse or such.
Yeah, you just don't hear about. I think I've heard of two instances where the Bigfoot actually went in the house, but you hear more, and that happened with my mom and her dad. You know, after the dog got thrown through the window, what happened next was all of a sudden the door started rattling.
Yep, straight up nightmare fuel, huh? It's really
Oh yeah,
bizarre. And people don't realize too, there's so much activity up in New England and Maine, like we had spoken about before, that it goes back previous a few years to even the original Michigan Dogman encounter, so it's bizarre and absolutely mind-boggling. Yeah, I feel that at the North American Dogman Project with our science team and such, we're definitely making really good progress in the right direction as getting some pretty good ideas as to what exactly this could be. So
yeah. I mean, it sounds like you guys have got a great team together. Again, it's not like I'm well versed in the scientific world of Bigfoot, but I don't know of many teams like you guys who actually have an actual biologist and behavioral specialists and everything right on board, all working together as one
it,
team instead of individuals looking at the same reports.
which is super important like that, and that's really why I wanted to help Jody and everyone set up that, because I'm just a journalist, and like you just said, doesn't mean you're not a good researcher or you're not smart, but when it comes to the scientific field, they're not going to listen to you unless you have degrees to state that you are basically permitted to speak about the subject that you're trying to. So yeah, I never get offended by that when people are like, "Oh, well, you're just a journalist." Yes, I am, and that's my job, just to document things and be subjective, objective, and just present data. But that's why I just have the science team to defer to that. I mean, pretty much everything I'm going to tell you is the same as my science team is going to tell you, but I understand why you want to speak to them and not me.
Yeah, but you're the important part of that cog too, because you know how to dig and find the information that they need. That's why sometimes I don't understand why researchers and journalists clash when they should be trying to, work together. It seems like sometimes you'll get a researcher who says this, a scientist says this, and nobody will move from the narrative they want to spin. It's like what happens with the truth, is a combination of those narratives combined.
Beautifully spoken right there, and I wish everyone would kind of play by those rules, but it boils down to egos, whether it's females, males, everyone has egos, man. And some people's are worse than others. They just think they know everything, and that's why I just always encourage people, and also myself. I always want to learn, man. I want to be corrected if I'm misinformed. I want to be taught new things. I want to hear new music. I want to see new technology. I don't know. It's a gift, in my opinion, to always be evolving and such. And I feel like the generic stereotype is, oh, go read a book. I mean, just because reading a book doesn't solidify intellect, yes, I read, but yeah, I might be reading stuff on my phone, not an actual textbook. So I don't really even understand how that falls into the perimeters.
Well, not only that, you're still only reading what the author wants you to know.
Mm-hmm.
What else is there behind that the author's not telling you? So that's why it's good to be like you and diversified in the fact that you'll read multiple things on the same encounter, because then you got all the different views, and somewhere in the mix is the truth of all those different views.
Again, well spoken. And one of my little brothers, I mean, I value them both a ton, but my middle one always would preach to me just about how if you want to learn things, you need to look at all aspects. Meaning, if I want to learn about history, I don't just read American history books. I dive into indigenous cultures history. I dive into Western history. I dive into Asian history. And then from all of that, you're able to gather real historical aspects, not just a one-sided perspective. And again, I can't stand really paying attention to, say, you know, things that are prompting me on my phone about, oh, this is occurring here, this is occurring there. But either way, same thing would apply to that. If you're going to gather knowledge about anything, you should always look at different sources. So.
Well, yeah, that's like I can't remember when it happened. It was in the last 2 years, the supposed alien attack over in Turkey. Do you remember that?
I do not, but I also don't really look for anything, I guess, outside of the Dogman topic at the moment.
Oh, gotcha. Well, there was a incident that was supposed to have happened in Turkey, and it was right around the same time as the mall incident down in Florida, where that got proven to be a hoax. But Turkey actually came out, so this is the real deal, blah, blah, blah. In my mind, I had already pinned it. It was just bunk. I didn't even want to look into anything else. But then I had a friend talking to me, and he was in Turkey, and he has to deal with. I'm like, hey, what's this about? Blah blah blah. And he's like, dude, nobody but Turkey knows what's going on because that place is off limits to everybody, even the U.S. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, I'm telling you, they don't let anybody in. So kind of opened my eyes that I was being pretty stupid by just writing it off when now I got somebody who's legitimately telling that they don't really know what's going on there. Turkey does, but not anybody else. So you have to keep your eyes and ears open when you're about anything. Dogman, I mean, what's some of the common things that, supposedly Bigfoot has the whole supernatural thing, interdimensional stuff like that. What's the most out there ones that you're not sure about?
So before I read you this next encounter, I personally, this is just me personally, okay, I have really good friends of mine that subscribe to some things that I don't personally subscribe to myself. I don't really buy into the portal aspects, okay? I don't really buy into werewolves directly. I buy into the Dogman. Again, I don't really buy into human trying to interbreed with animals and coming up with crazy things. I just don't really buy into any of that stuff too much because there's nothing to back it up, okay? There's things to back up like the Dogman, which we talk about all the time, the footprints, the cynocephaly. There's a huge historical aspect. But a lot of the things I just stated, I don't know. I'm not saying they can't be occurring, okay? But again, same thing. I don't really believe in like phase or any of that stuff. I don't even really believe in the Mothman, and I definitely don't believe in Loch Ness monster. I do believe in Sasquatch, okay, but I don't know some of those other ones that are kind of really outside of the realm. I step back and ask, okay, for every one person we'll say that is seeing a portal, I can show you probably 1,000 plus that has no idea even what that is, or has even heard of that and definitely never seen it. So I'm not saying that that's not occurring, but there's really no sort of scientific clarity on that aspect. Whereas same thing with like lycanthropy. But if you want to talk about skinwalkers, well, that's heavily documented, and they pretty much walk you through how it occurred in indigenous cultures. And yes, I take indigenous history way more to heart than I do European history because we all know with the witch trials, the werewolf trials, and man, they were on some gnarly stuff over there, dude. So
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't just Oreos they were eating.
yeah, and how do you feel about my response to that, I suppose?
I think it's perfect. I think people should be able to talk about a subject, not agree on it, but still be friends. It shouldn't be just because I don't. I've never seen a portal land and a Bigfoot step out of it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just haven't seen it.
Exactly.
So,
And I'm willing to always talk to everybody. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have a conversation about that and such, and I would obviously be respectful and ask questions and learn. I'm just saying if somebody asks me my opinion, then I'm going to state my opinion. I'm not going to mustard up or hide how I feel about a topic. But again, as a journalist, it's not about what my opinion is, it's about what the evidence is stating.
yeah, that's the way I approach it. I don't rule out anything. I listen to everything because if you don't listen to everything, how do you learn anything? Sort it out, see what can be proven, what can't be proven, and then base your opinion off of that. But always be open minded to that opinion evolving is the way I look at it.
100%, man, and it's very well spoken. And you know how I feel, and same thing with a lot of my science team. We believe that it's a physical living animal that comes from the Amphicenoidae family and also the Dinopithecus and such. And yeah, so as more time comes and as our documentary rolls out, and as we team up with Doug Hijack and History Channel and such, and all that stuff, you're gonna see, not yourself directly, but people are going to see why we feel certain ways about a topic. And it actually leads into this next one right here that occurred in 2014, 8 p.m., Hebron, Maine. A local woman, Alicia Sessions, and her boyfriend are driving home late one night when they come around a bend in the road and suddenly see a huge hyena like creature, the size of at least a black bear, with pointy ears, a large mane, and piercing red eyes, standing on two legs in the middle of the road, maybe 5 to 7 feet away, slamming on the brakes in an attempt to not hit the strange, hunched over creature. The car comes to a stop, wondering what was going to happen next. The couple quivered in terror as the animal turned its head towards them and began growling and violently snapping its jaws at them as it slowly crawled off across the road like a baby off into the forest.
Hyena like. That sounds like somebody's theory of what could be happening. And how terrifying would that be to a hyena the size of a black bear is in Maine, right?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting for sure. And even a spotted hyena, a large one, by a normal sized black bear, would probably still be decent size. But in history, there were hyenas that one was the size of a rhinoceros and another was the size of a polar bear. And cave hyenas probably would have been the size of a full grown black bear. So it is really intriguing.
Yeah, and you guys are even higher up into like bush country than what I am in Michigan. So I don't get where people say this stuff can't be running around in the woods without being seen.
Isn't that the truth? Because, like you said, there's so much forest, and it's really hard to. Yeah, I was correct. Like I'd asked before. So, Maine, where I am, is the most forested state in the United States with 89.46% of its land covered by forest. And then right behind it, you have New Hampshire at 84.32%. Then you have, I'm not even sure where this is, man. American Samoa, 80.84%. Then you have Northern Marina Islands at 80%, West Virginia at 78%, Vermont at 76%, which I would have thought Vermont would have been higher, to be quite honest with you. And then Alabama at 71%.
I'm surprised Alabama's that high.
Yeah, and I'm surprised Michigan's not more up here, man. Yeah, exactly.
You know, when you get about mid-mitten down, it's all Detroit and Saginaw and Flint and all
That
industrial down there.
that would make sense. But yeah, so right there with the forest, Maine has so much forest, okay? And it's just straight up bizarre because, like our science team was saying, with the aspects of being able to travel around, and it's all prevalent and it's all there. And there's just so much activity up in Maine. I mean, I could just go on for probably a few hours with you with Maine stuff. And especially just in New England in general, like I just named off. I mean, the top, what, 5 states, most of
Yeah.
them were in New England.
Yep. I mean, so you've got all that vastness, all that wilderness, and literally everything they need, you know, food, cover, water, abundance of it. So I don't know who did the study, but I remember reading, you know, it was a summary of it that if you put every trail cam ever made, if they were still working, and lined them all up, you would only cover like 2% of the forest in the US.
Yeah, sounds about right. People still don't realize. I mean, don't get me wrong, we are like a vermin and parasite ourselves. I mean, we're everywhere, human beings,
Yeah.
but still, yeah, we still like to be congregated, most people together into areas, meaning, yeah, if you look at, say, if you were to stand out in the wilderness and you could see the aspects of where people are, there's still basically like a borderline where everyone still is within almost the societal range, you know?
Yeah. And the good example proven that is like the way the electoral votes work. There's 3 counties in Michigan that if all 3 go a certain way, they win the whole state.
Hmm.
And it's just 3
Interesting.
counties. So it's like, you know, I forget I wouldn't even have a guess at the square mileage. But when you get in the UP and it's only something like 1.2 people per square mile.
And also near up where the Great Lakes, correct me if I'm wrong, where that heads off into Toronto, that's a lot of forest too, is it not?
Oh yeah. Yep. And then especially when you cross Superior right into Canada.
And that's like up here with us when you hit up towards, New York, like where it goes up kind of towards like Niagara Falls, and then you head up towards New England and you go through Maine up into Canada. There's so much forest there. And that's what's kind of always made me chuckle a little bit before I let you get back to what you're doing. When people act like there's some sort of mysterious line that just keeps a cougar from coming down in Canada into
Yeah.
Maine, or in California, where, oh yeah, there's no more grizzlies here, yet you just cross this mysterious border up into Canada. There's grizzly bears now. There literally has to be points in time where those animals are venturing down there.
What exactly? That's how they figured the Cougars made a comeback down here in the lower peninsula of Michigan was because uh, they were isolated in the UP, but once the lake started freezing over consistently, it's only a couple miles in between the 2 peninsulas, and then it started crossing over. So for the DNR to say that there was no way possible, yet people were turning in pictures left and right. And then all of a sudden, a year later, now you got cougar warnings in the national parks along the shoreline. Dogmen and Bigfoot aren't going to pay attention to whether they're in, Maine or Vermont. It's just their woods.
And that's what I try to really just stress to people is, yeah, obviously there are predators that are known to areas, but when people are finding, say, like huge canine-like tracks in Tennessee, and they only have red wolves that are small, well, honestly, man, that doesn't mean a gray wolf didn't pass through that area heading off to somewhere else, okay? Just because you didn't document it in the area and your state doesn't document it as a healthy breeding population, there is no reason whatsoever why it couldn't pass through that area.
Well, exactly. The wolf hybrids that we used to raise were timber wolf and Arctic wolf, and the puppies would come out 66%. Those puppies had a range of about 200 square miles, they thought were theirs, which is nowhere near I forget what a normal wolf is. So to think they're
Yes.
going to be, you can go by square mileage maybe, but you're sure not going to go by a boundary, a county line.
No, and let me correct myself. Sorry, not even gray wolf, timber wolf, because I know there's timber wolves up in Michigan. Am I even correct about that?
Nope, we got timber wolves up here
Exactly. So what would
and a
honestly
gray
keep
wolf.
it? Yeah, what would keep both of them from going down to Tennessee, man? Like I just don't understand like what they're predators, man. If they don't have food or they're on the trail to find a new pack or a female, or it doesn't even have to be a human logical reason that we want to put on it.
No, if they could just keep wandering into somebody else's territory, they got to go somewhere. So why not go south? Whatever way the nose is pointing.
That's all I'm saying. So it's just I encourage people to, just be a little proactive and just think about that, okay? There is no mysterious line that just, like a gatehouse eye with your dog that shocks your dog when he or she goes too far in the yard. It doesn't work like that. If a grizzly bear wants to come down from Canada into Maine, there's nothing going to stop that, okay? And vice versa. So, yeah, I mean, technically, like I said, for a state to have to acknowledge there has to be a healthy breeding population, but it doesn't stop them from traveling all around. So
Yeah, there's no invisible fence.
it doesn't work like that. But nah, I appreciate you again popping in tonight, man, and hanging out with us in the Fox Den. It's always good stuff. And yeah, like I said, I always have. If you want to talk about things, that's great. If not, I always do have a file I can bust open. And I haven't even worked on my book for quite a while because I just have been trying to get caught up on other stuff. And well, you can only plug away on things in order. So
Yeah, do what you can, and when you're ready to do it, so you're not trying to force something that doesn't come out the way you want, and then you're doing it twice or 3 times.
Thank you for everybody who stopped in tonight for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm, and I will catch you very soon.